There is this personal animosity towards Modi as an individual and as a politician. But if we were looking into the broader historical context, let's look at all of the prime ministers we've had since independence. First, we had Nehru. He was despised in the Western media. They really hated him. If there was one international leader who was treated with complete revulsion among Western media, it was Nehru. And in particular, his diplomats at the UN, there were cartoons in the New York Times showing them like snakes. That, these are venomous vipers who talk about third world, who talk about non-alignment, but, we know they're all Soviet stooges. And meanwhile, the Soviet Union hated him as well, saying that, this guy is just a bourgeois imperialist. He didn't even get India real freedom. He gave them fake independence and built this Brown Sahib state, which kept colonial police, colonial judiciary, colonial bureaucracy, and now just pretends to be kinder while having the same sadistic tools of imperialism. So he was quite disliked on the international level. Then that was followed by Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was seen as, this leader of this poor country. There's such a famine going on there, and they're at war. Such a sad fate for a country that got independence less than 2 decades ago. So it was very negative and patronizing. That was followed by Indira Gandhi. The U.S. foreign policy establishment and the media were very hostile to. They did not take kindly to her actions, even when humanitarian, for example, the liberation of Bangladesh, the ending of the Pakistani army's genocide of Bengalis, was not seen as a humanitarian achievement in the Western media. If we look at 7 years ago, before Modi came to power, you had Manmohan Singh. He said all the right things. He was very servile. He was willing to sign a nuclear deal with the US. How did the New York Times respond to that? They made fun of India's space program. They blamed India. They blamed Manmohan Singh for the climate negotiations, that India is this big climate villain that refuses to clean up its act, projecting all of their guilt causing climate change onto a country that didn't have electrification for most of its population. No matter whether an Indian prime minister is left-wing or right-wing, no matter what their actual policies are, India is not seen as a country that has shared interests or values with the core of the West. So the core of the West is the US and its client states. So NATO, Australia, New Zealand, then its second rung of client states like Pakistan or Saudi Arabia. And India has always had its own foreign policy. It's always sought to create consensus at the UN, work with African and Latin American and Asian countries. That was not seen as something desirable. That's continued now. There's never been a time where the Western foreign policy establishment or media saw India as anything more than a preachy rogue state. Superpowers don't have allies. They have client states, they have future client states, and they have rogue states. India is not a client state, no matter how much some elites would like it to be. A future client state? Possibly. There are some people in the US foreign policy establishment who are a bit sympathetic to India and think, best case scenario, one day we'll win over India and it can be a useful strategic partner. And then there's the third, which is the dominant view of the CIA and the State Department, which is India is an irredeemable case, full of these do-gooders who keep talking about human rights this and democracy that and rights of sovereignty. And that's not useful for us. We can't project our power through this preachy holier-than-thou country who keeps talking about poverty and climate justice and things like that. If I were to create this hypothetical scenario and at the next elections, Rahul Gandhi becomes prime minister, I can assure you nothing will change in Western coverage of India. No matter how suave he is, no matter how good his English is, India will still be seen as caste, cows, curry, rape, pollution, because fundamentally, the rise of India, be it through poverty alleviation, so socioeconomically, or geopolitically, wanting a place at the UN Security Council, wanting a multipolar world, are just so fundamentally opposed to the established interests of the current hegemons, the current dominant countries, that there's nothing we can do to change that. They exist to maintain the status quo, and nothing short of a major, major disruption, like another world war, or complete economic meltdown of one of the superpowers, will cause a change.